Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever stopped to wonder how we actually learn things? I mean, really, truly get them to stick. From your multiplication tables way back when to trying to figure out Shakespeare. Something clicks in our brains that takes us from I have no idea what's going on to that aha moment. Well, today, we're going to unlock some of the biggest secrets of the classroom and figure out how it all works. Just think back to when you were in school. I'm sure you can picture it, right? You had those classes that were amazing, you couldn't wait to go. And then there were the other ones, where you were just staring at the clock, willing it to move faster. A lot of that difference comes down to the teacher's whole approach, their core belief about what learning even is. So today, we're going to visit 4 very different classrooms, each run by a teacher with a totally unique idea about how we learn. Okay, so before we step into our first classroom, we've got to start with this really foundational idea from the philosopher John Locke. He came up with this concept of tabula rasa, which is Latin for a blank slate. The idea is that we're all born with our minds completely empty. Every single thing we learn, every idea we have, gets written on that slate by our experiences. Nothing's built in. It all comes from the world around us. And that blank slate idea? It's the perfect starting point for our first teacher, who sees it as their job to do the writing. All right, let's head into our first classroom. The teacher in here, we're going to call the trainer. For this teacher, learning is all about action. It's about what you can see and what you can measure. You see, the trainer is what we call a behaviorist. They believe that learning is basically just a change in how someone acts, something you can physically see. They're not too worried about what's going on inside your head, the thoughts, the feelings. What really matters is what you do. And this teacher has a system for shaping what students do using rewards and consequences. This whole approach breaks down really nicely into this simple ABC model. So A is for antecedent. That's the prompt, the teacher's question about the Great Gatsby. B is for behavior. The student gives the right answer. And C is for consequence, the teacher's praise. That excellent reinforces the correct behavior, which makes it way more likely the student will get it right next time. It's super direct, and you can see why it works. Okay, let's leave that classroom and head down the hall to our next one. Our second teacher, who we'll call the mind mapper, has a completely different focus. They're not just interested in the right answer, they are fascinated by how the student's brain actually got there in the first place. The mind mapper basically sees the human brain as this incredibly powerful computer. It takes in information, it processes it, it files it away for storage, and then it pulls it back up when it's needed. So the goal here isn't just about changing outward behavior. It's about understanding and even improving the mental software that's running the show. This is the key idea right here. For them, learning is an internal mental process. The name for this approach is cognitivism. It's all about how we pay attention to stuff, how our brain codes it and puts it into memory, and then how we find it and pull it back out later. So let's see how this works with, say, a famous line from Shakespeare. So check out how this works. First, you have the input. The student reads the line of poetry. Then comes the processing. Their brain gets to work analyzing the metaphors, the rhythm. After that is storage. This new information gets filed away in their long-term memory, probably linked up with everything else they know about Shakespeare. And finally, retrieval. When it's time for that big essay, they can access that file and put all that knowledge to good use. All right, on to classroom number 3. Our next teacher, the builder, looks at that computer idea and says, yeah, that's a good start, but it's missing something really important. The builder believes students aren't just processing information, they are actively building their own understanding of the world. See, the builder is a constructivist. And in their classroom, learning isn't like downloading a file into your brain. No, it's more like a big construction project. Every student uses their own personal experiences and what they already know as the bricks and mortar to build new ideas. And one of the most important tools this teacher uses is something called scaffolding. And this is what scaffolding looks like in action. It's just like when you're putting up a building, right? You need all that support structure at the beginning. The teacher provides a ton of help at first, like a full outline. Then, for the next project, they take a little bit of that support away, and then a little more. They do this piece by piece, until the student is strong enough to build the entire essay all by themselves. It's this awesome, gradual handover of responsibility. Okay, time for our last classroom visit. Let's go meet the coach. The coach believes that to really truly learn, you have to look beyond the tests and the grades and focus on the entire person. So the coach is a humanist.
Their main goal isn't just to teach a subject like English, it's to help students grow into the best possible versions of themselves. For a humanist, learning just can't happen if a student doesn't feel safe, respected, and motivated from within. You have to create the right environment before the mind can really open up.
The famous psychologist Carl Rogers really nailed the core of this idea. He said that all of us have this one basic drive: to grow, to improve, to become our full selves. So in the classroom, the coach is all about nurturing that natural drive. They focus on building a student's confidence and tapping into their own curiosity.
In a class like this, there's no such thing as a wrong interpretation of a poem because the focus is on what it means to you. It's about personal connection and growth, not just getting an A. The hope is that students leave this class not just as better writers, but with more confidence and a real, genuine love of learning for its own sake.
So there you have it. We've met 4 very different teachers, right? We had the trainer, who shapes our actions, the mind mapper, who programs the brain, the builder, who helps us construct our own knowledge, and the coach, who focuses on our personal growth. So that leaves us with the million-dollar question: which one is the best?
Let's just quickly break it down one more time. Behaviourism is all about what you can see, like praising a student. Cognitivism is about the thinking process, like mapping out a story. Constructivism is about students building ideas themselves, maybe through a debate, and humanism is about the whole person, making sure they feel safe enough to be creative. Each one has a totally different focus and a different way of doing things in the classroom.
But here's the real secret, and the research is really clear about this. The absolute best teachers, they don't just pick one of these and stick with it. They have a whole toolkit, and they use all of them. There's actually a ton of overlap between these theories. A great teacher knows when to be a trainer for drilling vocabulary, but then switch to being a builder for a group project, and then be a coach to inspire a student. They use the right tool for the right job.
And that really brings us to the final question. And this one is for you. Understanding all this stuff isn't just for teachers, it's for us as learners. So think about it. Which of these approaches really clicks with you? Which one helps you learn best? Because figuring that out is probably the most important step you can take to becoming a better learner. Thanks for tuning in.